all, I want to say a big thank you. I look big and I look like a macho, but I don't like all this. It's not about me. The celebration is about you guys. But I want to give a special thank you to Nussin. You know why? Because the whole Shabbos, it looks like everybody knows Nussin. The whole Shabbos, he's warning me, Rabbi, are you afraid of your speech? He even gave me, on Shabbos, he came up with me with an article for public speaking. So I want to say, Nussin, I hope I won't embarrass you.
And the contraption he made over here.
L'chaim, l'chaim. I'm driving back, so this is water, don't worry. I want to give a big thank you to, let's start to the Gladstones, father and son, Mishpacha, the milestone that they did. The credit is all theirs. I am here to help. We're from the government. I saw once the bumper sticker. We're from the government. We're here to help. I'm one of those. Yeah. I want to give a special yashikoyach to the Laufer family. We were here Shabbos. It was very inspiring Shabbos. We even managed to make one more minyan than usual. It was very nice. It was Parsha Shkolim. The community looks really a beautiful, nice community. Inspired, Lebedik together. And of course, the apple hasn't fallen far from the tree. I'm sure it has to do with Rabbi Laufer Sr. And it was a beautiful Shabbos. David HaMelech says a pasuk, Chaver ani l'chol asher yiru'ucha. Chaver ani, I am a friend to anyone who fears you. As I said, if there's anything that a person needs help, chizuk as we call it, to strengthen himself in serving Hashem, David HaMelech says, Hineni. Avraham Avinu says, Hineni. We are here. And if I could spend 5-10 minutes every time I got up to speak today, Rabbi Laufer was with a shot clock. I don't know what kind of shot clock he's holding now, but if I could spend 5-10 minutes and say some inspiring words about Purim, the upcoming Yontif, and it will give you the blast to make your Purim more inspiring, to make your life more inspiring. So I'll follow in the footsteps of David HaMelech and Avraham Avinu. Now I'm very careful with my words, what I'm going to say today, because as I sat there before, this young gentleman said, watch out, there's more lawyers in this room. So I'm being very careful with my words. Okay. When when you called me a couple of weeks ago, you told me what was going to be the topic. The topic is going to be Purim, right?
No, it wasn't Purim.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
All right,
I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm sorry.
All right. How do you summarize a story like Purim? Because it's most important is if, the Baal Shem Tov has a very famous teaching. The teaching is there is a Mishnah and there's a halacha that says, Hakarei lemafreya lo yotzo. The simple interpretation means that if you read the Megillah and you read it backwards, you didn't fulfill the mitzvah. Why? Because when you read a contract, all the lawyers, you read it from start to finish. You don't read it backwards. So that's not the way to read the Megillah. The Baal Shem Tov interprets it much deeper. He says if it comes the night of Purim or the day of Purim, you sit down, you read the Megillah, you have your graggers ready. But you're reading it as a story that happened back then. Not as a story that's happening now. You didn't fulfill the mitzvah. The mitzvah of Purim is for us to acknowledge that exactly what took place then is happening to us today. And we say it in the Haggadah. In the Haggadah Shel Pesach, Passover night, we say, B'chol dur v'dur, in every generation, there's somebody that wants to wipe us out. There's somebody that wants to stand up and push away Judaism, religion. And somehow, miraculously, Hashem helps us out if we tap into the right source. So if you think it's a story that your bubby told you, that your elder bubby told you, but it has no relevance to today, then I can't help you. I'm going to try to help you see what you got to do to see that the story of Purim actually is today. And the pasuk in the Megillah, I'll quote some sources from the Megillah. The Megillah says, "Vayamim ha'elu niskarim v'nasim." Though these days, the days of, this is a quote from the Megillah Esther. These days are being remembered and being done. Now, any Hebrew-speaking people here? Yeah? Yes. What would proper Hebrew be? Vayamim ha'elu. These days, those days, the story of that, then, yizkuru, you should mention them in the future tense. It's written thousands of years ago. Should be mentioned by reading the Megillah, and when you read the Megillah, v'yasu, you'll act what the Megillah says you should do. Give shalach manas, have a celebration, give money to the poor. It doesn't say you shall read the Megillah and do. It says nizkarim. It's happening. These ideas, these principles are happening every day. In every generation, specifically in the time of Purim, it happens again and again. And the day itself is a day that demands elevation. Demands thought, depth. What's this all about? So nizkarim v'nasim. Nizkarim means has to be mentioned. And then, once it's mentioned, v'nasim, you'll act. So it comes a couple of days before Purim, and that's why in 2 weeks from now, Rabbi Laufer is going to be calling everybody to say it's the Shabbos before Purim, it's Parsha Zachar, right? You're going to do that. We need to have a minyan. Everybody has to come Shabbos before Purim to hear the Torah portion of Zachar. What's the Torah portion of Zachar? Remembering what Amalek did, and Haman is a descendant from Amalek. That is Niskarim. That's what you mentioned. Stay focused. Remember it. Hear what we're telling you. And then we turn into action, and a couple of days later, when V'nasim, we fulfill the mitzvah on Purim. We get just dressed up, we celebrate, the huplap and all that. But the Niskarim, the mindset, the listening, the understanding starts earlier. I read that there was the Kuznetzer Maggid. The Kuznetzer Maggid used to say that there's a statement that used to be said in his town that was half Polish, half Yiddish, half Hebrew actually. I don't speak Polish, I'm just going to quote what he says. He said, Yaki Purim, Taki Leil Shemurim. Purim means Purim. Leil Shemurim is Passover. The night of Passover is Leil Shemurim. So Yaki Purim, Taki Leil, we all prepare for Pesach. You were talking about Pesach kitchen, koshering Pesach, hotels. Every Orthodox frum lady, by now already, she's sweating. Oh, what's going to be Pesach? What's going to be Pesach? Anybody think about what's going to be Purim? Purim is easy. So there's a Polish statement, Yaki Purim, Taki Leil Shemurim. If you want, depending how good your Purim is, that's how good your Pesach will be. Why? Because by many Jews, the custom is on Pesach night, everybody's dressed in a celebratory way, in a Shabbos clothing. But some people have the custom, they wear a kittel. And when you dress that way, you feel, just being dressed that way, you feel a little more spiritual. On Purim, the custom is you don't get dressed up fancy. It's on the contrary. Yeah, everybody comes up with costumes, face painting, and they all come. Now, which one are you really? Are you the guy dressed up in the Shabbos clothing, the spiritual, you look like an angel? Or are you the man or the woman dressed up with all this face painting? Which one are you? Which? And the answer is, depends how you act when you're dressed up on Purim. When you're showing what's inside. Everything about Purim is to reveal what's hidden. You're drinking. Why people drink, why the mitzvah is to drink a little more on Purim is to let loose a little. You're usually tied up in a box, You have limitations, peer pressure, or whatever it is, walking on eggshells. And over here in Purim, we say, let loose, show your true colors. Sometimes you show your true colors by getting dressed up. That doesn't mean dress up as somebody else. It means just let loose. When you're all dressed up the night of Seder, not necessarily it is what you really are. So Yaki Purim, Taki Leil Shimurim. So we're going to spend some time preparing for Purim. But it's customary that on the night of Motzei Shabbos, it's customary to say a story. That's the custom by many Chassidim. So I'll tell you a fascinating story. I understand that the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, sent out a shliach to Rhode Island. Is that right? Rabbi Groner was sent by the Frierdiker Rebbe?
No,
Huh?
51 of them.
Okay, whatever. Anyways, the Frierdiker Rebbe came here, and came here, meaning to America. He came 1940. 1940, America didn't look so religious. And the Frierdiker Rebbe came all charged with his rabbinic dynasty and his Rebbe's Lubavitch dynasty from Russia, where it was self-sacrifice for everything. And he wasn't going to change. He wasn't going to change. He just relocated from Russia to New York. And he started doing activities like as if he was in Russia. And he was attracting people who weren't like him. So the ones, first he got, the first day he arrived, and this is a special holy rabbi, people called him over and tried to calm him down. Say, Rabbi, this ain't Russia here. This is America. In Yiddish, there was an expression, the gold in the Medina. Here's it, the gold in the Medina. Here's money, 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 money. Who cares about everything else? We're all into money, 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 money. Right? And the Frierdiker Rebbe told somebody that night, the famous quote that every Lubavitcher Chassid says, he says, I'm going to establish that America is nicht anders. America is not different than Russia. In the sense of Yiddishkeit, whatever self-sacrifice a person did in Russia, they built mikvahs almost like the Laufer mikvah here, underground somewhere. We're going to do the same exact thing in Russia. In America. And we're going to go. So the next attack the Frierdiker Rebbe got is somebody came over to the Frierdiker Rebbe and it says to the Rebbe, you're attracting a lot of non-religious people. And amongst the non-religious people, there are some that are very, very far. They're rebels. And if you look in the Shulchan Aruch, in the code of the Jewish law, it says how to deal with rebels. Rebellious Jews, now there are people who don't know. That we'll welcome. But then there are people who stand up and spit in your face. Shulchan Aruch, the code of the Jewish law, says how you have to ignore them. So how are you welcoming even people like that? And the Frierdiker Rebbe says, that's what it says in the code of the Jewish law. I've heard of that halacha. But let me tell you where that says. That's somewhere towards the end of the Shulchan Aruch. It says there's many other halachas first. For example, pages before that, it says the laws of loving your fellow Jew. When I excel in loving the fellow Jew, and then I'll get to that page where it says who I should dump. That's what the message he gave. The Rebbe repeated the story, and the Rebbe says it only in the way the Rebbe could say it. The Rebbe says the story that they told us to the Frierdiker Rebbe, and the Frierdiker Rebbe says, and I'll say it in Yiddish because there are more than 1,700 chapters in Shulchan Aruch. Now, father and son are going around on King Kong. We got slicha. They only learned 30 simanim. 30 of 1,700. It's a long time to go. There are over 1,700 simanim in Shulchan Aruch. And he says, the Frierdiker Rebbe says, that halacha of who to ignore, who to overlook, is towards the end, over this thing. And so the Frierdiker Rebbe said, I'll excel on the first, and then I'll worry about the end. When I hear the Rebbe saying that, I trust the Rebbe, but I like to find the spice. And I did a little research, and it turns out that there are 1,705 chapters. Well, the Rebbe doesn't just throw a number. There are 1,705 chapters in Shulchan Aruch. And the way to remember that is because the Shulchan Aruch is categorized in 4 sections. There's one section called Orach Chaim. Excuse me. Orach Chaim means the way of life. Am I doing good? Might need some water. I'm sweating there. Orach Chaim means the day of life. So morning prayers, Shabbos. The normal day of life is in that section. Then there is Yoredeya. Yoredeya is what they were learning about meat and milk, secondary things. Then there's Even Ezer. Even Ezer is marriage, how you get married, all these issues. And then there's Choshen Mishpat. Choshen Mishpat is for all the lawyers. Those are the monetary issues, disputes between people. If you take these 4 words, it's more than 4 words, Orach Chaim, Choshen Mishpat, Even Ezer, and Yeredeya, and you count them all up in the numerical value, it will be 1,705. That 1,705 is the amount of chapters there are in Shulchan Aruch. Beautiful, right? So the Rebbe says there are more than 1,700, and this is towards the end. This halacha, which Jew you ignore, is 1,702. Towards the end, when the Rebbe says something like this, it's for real. Why am I saying this story? Because just last week I heard somebody giving a speech, and he didn't know this whole story and the whole thing, but he said another thing. He said to be a good Jew, you can't stop. You have to try and continue growing and growing and growing. Because there are 1,705 simanim in Shulchan Aruch. Simanim meaning chapters. And it's the same numerical value as Shomer Torah u'mitzvahs. One who keeps Torah mitzvahs. Take those 3 words, is 1,705. Thank you. See, she takes care of me. That's fine. It's 1,705. That was an amazing thing to me. That means to say, we always have to strive. You know, in davening and Rosh Hashanah, we're going to say a pasuk over and over again. Mi ya'ala b'har Hashem. Who will go up the mountain of Hashem? Why a mountain? Mountain's scary. Who goes rock climbing? Because you go rock climbing.
I go.
Why? I'm afraid of heights. So the answer is Yiddishkeit, Judaism, is you got to keep on climbing. You can't stop. Just like you're in a steep mountain. If you stop, you're in danger. You always have to keep on going up and up and up. Miyalava, and even once you reach the top, you don't walk around like King Kong. I'm on top. You have to survive. You have to be careful how to stand at the tip of the mountain. But the Rebbe would always say the sign of a living person is if he grows. You look in the water and you look for fish. If you see a fish floating in the water, it's a dead fish. If you see a fish moving, if you see a fish going against the stream, it's a living fish. So that is the thing that we have to learn. That we always have to grow. Shomer Torah Mitzvahs is a complete deal, the 1,705. But at least we should know what it means, what we're growing with. Just that day, I was sitting in shul, and I davened in shul at a minyan for all the Lubavitchers that daven Vasikin. Vasikin is sunrise. Sunrise right now is getting earlier and earlier. So in New York, it's about 6:45, they're ready Shemot Esrei. So we start about 6:10. So there's a guy sitting right in front of me, a very sweet gentleman. He looks like Rabbi Laufer, an older man with a white beard. I always see him learning. And he's always there before me. Whatever. So we had a talk. And I tell him, I'm only new to this gig. You're doing this for years. How early is sunrise? I want to get ready, and now it's 6:45, big deal. But how early does it get? I'm going to stop sooner or later. I'm not. She says he doesn't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? You're doing it for years. She says, he doesn't know. How don't you know? He says, I come to shul every day, 1 a.m. He comes 1 a.m., he starts learning, and then it turns into sunrise. Whenever sunrise is his davening. This man looks like a simple person. I said, when do you sleep? He sleeps from 7 in the evening till 12 at night. 12 at night he wakes up, he comes to shul, and he says there's about 10 people. There's a shul a couple of blocks away. I daven there. And there's these sweet people. They're there from 1 a.m., from midnight, and it rolls into the next morning. What does he do for a living? He teaches English. You can imagine Rabbi for teaching English? He's an English teacher. I'll tell you an interesting story for the Chabadniks. He's davens Tehillas Hashem Siddur. He doesn't look like a Chabadnik. I said, why do you daven Lubavitch Siddur? Because he says, 50, 60 years ago, I think he grew up in New York. He once went to Camp Gan Yisrael, and Benti Shem Tov told him, you should daven Tehillas Hashem Siddur. So since then, he's davening Tehillas Hashem Siddur. Anyways, there are people, you don't have to look into a magazine or into a storybook to look back there and find who should I look up to. There's plenty of people around your family, your neighborhood, that you could learn of people who are always growing. And those are the people that we should look up to. So let's get a full circle back. What's Purim all about? In the Shabbos davening, in the Chododi, we say a beautiful statement. Soif ma'isa b'machshava tchila. Right? We say that in the Chododi. What does it mean? Whatever you saw happen, that wasn't the plans all the way in the beginning. There's a direct connection from what happens to, it was always meant to be that way. So I'm going to go to the tail end of the story. The story everybody knows. You know, they say, I don't know who it is because I don't know these TV shows or whatever. They say that there's a Jewish comedian that says every Jewish holiday is the same thing. The Jews were being hurt, and God saves them. Let's sit down and eat. What's Purim? What's the end of the story of Purim? And by you see how we were saved, you could see what the problem was always from the beginning. So let me quote you a pasuk that says at the end of the story. It says that Achashverosh changed the decree, and he elected Yidden to stand up to defend themselves. So the pasuk says the riders went running out to tell everybody in Shushan that the Jews are not going to be pushovers; they're going to fight back. And then the pasuk says, "Mordechai yotza b'lifnei hamelech." Mordechai leaves the palace, being dressed with fancy clothing, and he's wearing a crown. And then it says the famous statement, "Va'ir Shushan sahala v'samecha," and the city of Shushan became all happy. Freilach. And the next pasuk, La Yehudim ha'isa'ira v'simcha v'sasin v'kar. And the Jews had light, happiness, gladness, and glory. Now, so some of the commentaries ask, there's something in between here that doesn't fit. It should have said, Achashverosh changed the decree, and he says, boys, you guys could stand up and defend yourself. And the Yiddens celebrated. How does the pasuk fit in there? Hold on. Mordechai walked out of the palace. He's wearing fancy clothing. He's wearing, now we could celebrate. Why did they wait to see Mordechai come out of the palace? So the Grizz and many other commentaries say that the Jews were not ready to celebrate until there was what to celebrate about. We know that on Purim, there was a very, very deep decree. Deep in the sense, what was it all about? The Gemara tells us, you really tell me, I don't want to keep everybody here forever. The Gemara tells us, the Gemara tells us God forbid. Why did the Jews deserve this scare? What did they do wrong? At that generation, there were a lot of good people. Why did they deserve that scare? And the Gemara gives all different answers. And none of them are real good. Say they didn't eat kosher, you don't deserve death threats for not eating kosher. None of the answers that he mentioned are enough to go through this scare of what Haman did. The Rebbe interprets this so beautiful. The Rebbe says, let me tell you what it is. The Jews living amongst the nations of the world is a miracle. Not then. Today, every time. Why? We are one little nation. The Pasuk calls us Atem Hama'at Mikol Ha'amim. We are the smallest. We are the minority of the world. I'm sure the statistic will show you what we are the smallest of the smallest of the smallest. Right? We are the minority. And the Medrash compares us to one shepsela. How do you say a shepsela? Sheep. One sheep. Very good. One sheep, and the 70 other nations are 70 hungry wolves waiting for lunch. So we are one shepsela, one sheep, amongst 70 hungry wolves. Everybody wants to take a bite. How do we survive? How do we survive day to day? Says the Rebbe, we survive day to day miraculously. What causes the miracle? Tap in to Hashem. You connect to Hashem. Hashem is supernatural. You do what He wants. You're connected to above nature. Just by connecting. So, when a person does not do the right thing, he doesn't have to commit a very big crime, to be into a situation of a punishment. He just has to disconnect. Take that wire out. You take that wire out, you're on your own. You're on your own. Good time, good lunchtime. We have to always be connected to live a miraculous life. So the Yidden, when they were about to celebrate the victory against Haman, they said, whoa. It's not just about not being killed. We want to have our religion back. So until they didn't see Mordechai come out with Levush Malchus, the Levush Malchus, the Medrash says he wore tzitzis. Until then, he was walking around with a sackcloth. Oh, sackcloth, so it's a natural debate here. Are we going to win? Then naturally we have very little chance for success. But they see him coming out of the palace wearing tzitzis. And as the Rebbe stresses over and over again, when the Megillah introduces Mordechai, in the beginning of the story, it says, Ish Yehudi Haya B'Shushan Abira. There was a Jew, or in our language, there was a Jew boy in Shushan Abira, in the capital city of Shushan. What does that mean? What kind of description is that? Says the Rebbe, Shushan Abira, Washington, D.C., downtown Rhode Island. Everybody looking at this person knew that he's a Ish Yehudi. He was Jewish. There's no way he hid his Judaism. There's no way he hid his religion. And he was out in your face. He told you, I am who I am. I am Jewish. I'm a Jew. And that's how the Megillah introduces him. Ish Yehudi Haya B'Shushan Abir is a Jew boy walking around in the capital city. He wasn't ashamed of his religion. Something happened during that period of time. He had to change. He had to change, not because he was ashamed, because he had to deal with Achashverosh. So when he comes back and he's wearing his tzitzis out in public, he's not afraid of his Judaism, then we are going to celebrate. Then we say, Vayir Shushan Tzahalav V'Samecha. And the following pasuk goes on, and the following pasuk says, La Yehudim, the Jews had Eira, light. Light came back, happiness came back, glory came back only after the celebration. And the Gemara here too says, what does it mean that light came back? Says the Gemara, Eira zu Torah. Now they're able to study Torah again. Simcha zu Yom Tiv. Now they're able to celebrate Yom Tiv the way you're supposed to. Sasain zu Mila. The Bris Milah, everything was hush-hush till now. And Yikar Elu Tefillin. So the Mefarshim ask him this pasuk. If that's what the pasuk meant, that's not what it says. It should have said klotz kasha. La Yehudim haisa Torah Yom Tif Mila and Tefillin. It doesn't say that. It says La Yehudim haisa Ira. The Jews had light. So here there's a phenomenal lesson. The Jews were able to keep the Torah even under being oppressed by Achashverosh. They kept Torah, but in a hidden way, and they maybe did it, maybe they didn't. Maybe they had excuses. Once they got freed from Achashverosh, it wasn't only that they got permission to do mitzvahs again. They learned something much, much deeper. They learned that Ira Zu Torah. You want to know what real light is? Real light is Torah. They learned that Simcha, what is true happiness? Yom Tif. That I always tell my students, you walk into a wedding hall and everybody's boogieing, everybody's dancing. Give me 2 minutes, I'll be able to see right away who is dancing because he's the father of the groom, father of the kala, and who's dancing because he's partying. How am I going to tell? Because you could tell somebody dancing for real, somebody who is, it's kishkis, the kishkis, he's happy, and somebody who's just a tag along. It's without, I don't have to look at the fancy suits, and I can just watch how they dance. I'll see if you're dancing for real or not. Simcha. What is true simcha? True simcha is Yom Tif. How do the Jews celebrate happiness as a Yom Tif? What's the difference? Look at how we celebrate our New Year's, and how the Gentiles celebrate the New Year's. Shikurim, drunkens. We don't do that. It's a much deeper thing. What is Ira? What is true light? What is true guidance? The guidance and light of Torah. That light, Hareini Hashem darkecha. Hashem tells, Necheni ba'erach misher. Give me light, give me clarity. Show me where to go. And if we only follow the light of Hashem, we're on the right path. And again, I want to say Yashar Koach to everybody. And it's a beautiful community. It should only grow from Michayel L'chayel.
Amen.
For an amazing, inspiring speech for Purim. To know that the Megillah has a lot of a deeper meaning than just the story of Esther. To read more commentary on chabad.org or anywhere else to know the deep lessons and instructions we can get from the story of Purim. One thing is for sure, never to be in despair and never to worry about being Jewish. Right? What's the famous joke? The joke is that they told Ahmadinejad he's going to die on a Jewish holiday. So they paid thousands of dollars to find out from people who could tell the future which holiday he'll die on. And they came back and said, we don't know exactly which holiday, but we are pretty certain the day you die will be a Jewish holiday. A matter of holding on strong and not being in despair. Huh? Oh, I put my joke on your video. I'm sorry.
Cool. No, they cut it out.
Does anyone need help with dessert, Sharon? Here, we're going to get dessert. Who wants to get dessert?